From the author of Spinsterella, A Strange and Unusual Romance comes Spellbound, a darker shade of black. Get Spellbound this Halloween in paperback and ebook at online booksellers everywhere. This week there were two more controversial shootings of black men by police officers. In one incident, an individual whose vehicle had broken down on a highway in Tulsa, Oklahoma, was shot and killed by a white female police officer under what many believe to be questionable circumstances. And in another incident in Charlotte, North Carolina, an individual who many say was mentally disabled was shot and killed by police officers who had told him to drop a gun. Now, when we look at these incidents, they are part of a larger pattern. Not even a month or 2 months from the deaths of Alton Sterling and Philando Castile, we have two more murders of African American men by police officers. And what's really troubling about these situations is not just the murders of these black men by police officers, but the response of the African American community. Now, the African American community's response follows a similar pattern again and again that is like a vicious cycle. Individual is murdered by white police officers or non-black police officers. Black people take to the streets and march and protest. Black people then go out to riot. And then maybe one of these crazy individuals, pro-blacks, decides to go out on a shooting rampage. And this has been the paradigm that has repeated itself over and over again like a vicious cycle. Instead of there being a comprehensive and constructive plan to deal with the issue of police brutality in the black community and officers who use excessive force, what we have in the black community is a paradigm of failure that repeats itself again and again. And this pattern of march and protest and then go out to riot is repetitive and counterproductive because we look at it and it's not yielding any sort of constructive solution whatsoever to deal with this issue in the black community. All it's leading to is black man dies, people march and protest. Sometimes there's a riot. Sometimes we have something like what happened in Dallas where there's a mass shooting, where one of these pro-black individuals goes on a rampage because of stuff that he's heard. And then the family gets a settlement, and then the cycle starts all over again with no real constructive solution towards dealing with healing the community and police relations. And I really look at the black community and I really don't see anybody thinking about working on any sort of solution whatsoever. Yes, all we have is a lot of people making noise, but we have nobody trying to take any action. And what's really sad about all this is that this is during the era of your first black president. Again, you would think your Barack Obama and many others would be trying to make constructive efforts towards dealing with this issue of black men being killed by police officers and in these controversial cases. But instead, we get nothing but apathy and indifference from your first black president and your first black attorney general. The black community is deteriorating. Meanwhile, your Barack Obama is just pretty much coasting towards the end of his term, which shows us how sad this whole case of Black Lives Matter is. The top black man in the top office of the United States shows how little regard he has for black life, just like the thug on the street shows how little regard he has for black life. And we're told we're supposed to care about black lives in these cases, but in many cases, black people don't care about black lives because all they want to do is continue going on in this codependent cycle where this white cop or this non-black person kills this black person, and then they go over there to march and protest and then never ask for anything to constructive to end the problem. Because as I see it, in many cases, many of these Negroes don't want to end the problem. They're codependent, and codependents love the position of the victim because the position of the victim is a position of power for them. It is a position that they can leverage things out of. And this is what a lot of people want to do. They want to leverage the position of power so that as the victim, they can continue to get attention, to get their needs met. Unfortunately, nobody wants to deal with this issue in a constructive way that ends the problem. And one of the ways we could really end the problem, again, is teaching kids a protocol for engaging police officers and teaching adults a protocol for engaging police officers. Because that we're not seeing any sort of constructive action to deal with this issue. It just keeps happening again and again. And what we're seeing from black men is that you're expecting other people to do something, but you're going to have to take charge. And, we all as black men are going to have to start taking initiative to bring this up as a platform, because clearly we see that movements created by black women, such as your Black Lives Matter, aren't going to be able to do this, because all they're good at is making noise and getting attention for 5 seconds, but not creating a platform which creates a policy which gets things done. Because in all the last 7 or 8 years that all of these incidents have happened, not a single individual, from George Zimmerman all the way up to the officers who killed Alton Sterling and Philando Castile, have ever been brought up on charges for any sort of crime. And not a single one of these officers has been terminated from their jobs. Nothing has progressed in any way, shape, or form. Yet the Afro-American Negro community's only response is to go out and march and protest and rally. I'm sorry to say this, but that approach is outdated, it's outmoded, it's obsolete, and it's time to take another course of action. And I've said this in numerous videos, that now it is time to take a different course of action. If you see something is not working, then it's time to do something else, because the definition of insanity is doing the exact same things and expecting a different result. In order to get change, you have to create a course of action that constructively gets you what you want. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing a lot in the black community is nobody really knows what they want. A lot of these people are going out, they're marching and protesting the deaths of these black men, but they don't have an agenda to end the violence. Their whole idea of an agenda is just them going out and feeling good, but then after the rally, they're going back to doing the exact same things as before. If you want change, change has to, again, start with you, and you have to create a constructive solution that ends the problem. Again, but codependent people don't want to end any problem, because they like being the victim. They like jockeying for the position of the victim. And they think the position of the victim is the only way they can get attention. When we look at the black community and this case and this issue of police brutality, it's not going away, because black people are not creating a plan to deal with it with politicians and police departments to deal with this whole culture. They don't have a constructive plan. And because they don't have a constructive plan, the same things keep happening. No one is teaching the kids how to engage police. No one is dealing with the culture of out of control police officers. No one is insisting that there be something done about officers who use excessive force. And this is a big problem in the black community. A lot of people keep talking about justice, but you have to have a plan to get constructive justice for everyone. And that includes not just sending one police officer to jail, but dealing with this culture inside the police departments, inside the police academies, inside the recruitment process, so that you can deal with this issue in a way that officers learn how to conduct themselves in engaging the public. Because if you don't deal with it in a constructive manner, you have the same things happening over and over again, and municipalities winding up having to take millions of dollars out of their budget away from services like schools, roads, highways, and other essential services to pay these cash settlements to families of men who have been killed by the police. Because every person that they have to pay, again, that money is taken from tax dollars, and those tax dollars are then paid in these settlements. And people, they can't connect the dots on how all of this connects, how this works together towards everyone's detriment. When you look at the bigger picture, this is something that people just don't understand. And we look at this whole situation regarding these continuing deaths of black men. No one's looking at it from an objective perspective. They're looking at it from an emotional perspective. And because they're emotional, things continue to deteriorate at an even rapider pace. Because I look at what happened in the case of your Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, and then I see this incident again, and then the incident in Milwaukee. Things are clearly deteriorating, because instead of people trying to find a way to solve this problem, they're just getting more and more upset, and they're going out here turning rallies into riots where innocent people are getting killed, like the young man in Charlotte, who some people believe was killed, but they're saying is in critical condition. But we're looking at this situation, and nothing is coming out of it constructive, and people are just, the leadership is just nonchalant. No one has a real direction on how to focus on how to get these goals completed. And I look at the big picture regarding these black men being killed by police officers, and it's clear to me that the people who come up with the rallies and the protests don't have a plan on how to solve the problem. Their whole plan is to make a lot of noise and get a lot of attention. But once you've got people's attention, what do you want to say? What do you want? What do you want to achieve? This is what the big problem is when it comes down to the black community on this issue of police brutality. They don't sit there and say exactly what they want. Do you want to create policies that help prevent police brutality? Do you want to try to recruit more African Americans into the police department? Do you want to deal with working towards facilitating better relations in the community? Do you want to have black people going out on patrol with police officers and riding along with them? What is the goal? And there has to be a goal outside of marching and protesting. You have to have a comprehensive plan that, again, deals with the issue overall, so that we not only build better relationships with the police department, but we also, and the black community, but we also create policies that deal with out of control officers who terrorize black communities by using excessive force, and having people in the community understand what the protocol is for dealing with police officers. You need a comprehensive plan, and I don't see any comprehensive plans coming out of everything, because people approach this whole subject with so much emotion that they don't think about it from a logical perspective. And we really need people to start thinking about this from a logical perspective, because that's the only way we're going to get towards a solution. Unfortunately, in many cases with codependent people, they don't want solutions, because without the problem, they can't be the victim. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.